Welcome to the APECS Podcast. Today is 9/11. We are remembering what happened on that day, what has happened since then, remembering and honoring American resilience. Stay with us.
I knew you talked about the guy. You had an idea, and you said, "This is kind of what I want. I want this. I want this." And but you was very not sketch. It was very like rudimentary, and he took it and made it what you wanted it to be.
Right. It was sketch, and it also was a sketch. So I liked the pun. No. So there's
date frame of something.
I'm gonna try to show you guys in the camera at the same time. I don't know, like this.
Hold on.
I don't know. Oh yeah, that's nice.
Man, that is really nice.
Nice.
That's good.
No, so I won't get into all the dates or whatever, but on my tattoo you'll see a timeline. Gosh. That also is a cross. The timeline is carried by the cross, so to say. There are several dates that mean different things in my life, hills and valleys over the corresponding dates. And then under the timeline, you're going to see Exodus 14:14, or a phrase from Exodus 14:14, which is when the children of Israel were standing at the Red Sea, Egyptians running behind them, and they think they're about to be overrun, captured, or killed. And Moses looks out at them and basically said, well, here's the exact quote, and then I'll tell you what essentially it means. He says, "The Lord will fight for you. You have only to be silent." You read into those words, and basically it means keep your mouth shut and let God do what he does, or whatever. And so I've always liked that. So the Lord will fight for you is the actual phrase on my forearm with the hills and valleys over my life.
And those dates are?
Dates that are meaningful to me.
Asking the tough questions. I knew not to ask them, because usually when people put dates on there, they'll let you know as they're explaining their tattoo with the dates made.
So
but if they don't, then that's to them. That's to themselves.
It's Roman numerals.
Just explain to somebody who doesn't have tattoos. Us with all these prominent tattoos we have.
Yeah,
Listen
to Big Al.
Big Al. Thank you for that.
No, yeah, I'm not necessarily against people who do tattoos just for the fun of it or whatever, but I'm not necessarily that person. I put a lot of thought into them.
Me too. So.
Is it true that the
Shut up.
Is it true that the teardrops are like how many people you've killed? Is that?
I think that's how it started. I think now it's like a status symbol thing.
Well, it's
like
going to represent
valor.
The people you've lost in your lifetime because you've shed tear as they died. But it used to be that for the people you've killed, no. More of it's if you've had somebody in your family that's been killed, and that's the way represented.
For some reason, I trust you.
Oh, yeah. If you guys go before me, I'm going to be dripping everywhere. Dripping. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but...
Is it going to be at our celebration of life, or is that...
Oh, if the celebration of life. So if I go before you, you got to promise me one Big Al tattoo on your eye.
If you die, I would cry.
Big Al tattoo.
I would cry. Okay, thanks. That's it. Well, I'm going to get... Remember...
What do you want me to say? You want me to take care of your children? I mean, what else am I supposed to offer
Melissa,
here?
you heard him first. You're moving in with Michael. Hey, but remember we said a couple of shows ago that when I celebrate my life passing, I want to be cremated, and everybody has to drink me as a protein shake. So
why?
Or a pre-workout.
Why?
That's what I want. That's what I want. Don't change.
You're
what I
not
want.
gonna. It's not gonna. Like, you have no idea what's gonna happen to your body.
So do you like chocolate? Do you like vanilla? You can mix me with every flavor you want.
I'm throwing you in my taco seasoning.
Oh, there we go. See, I would be honored.
That'd be the first time you'll be like completely Mexican.
Yes, I would be totally honored. So I'm going to get cremated, and I want everybody to have a little bit of my ashes. You can use me in barbecue. You can put me in a protein shake, pre-workout, taco seasoning.
Not happening.
Seasoned salt?
Yeah. That's
You
what
know
I
what?
want.
I'm going to loan Michael taco seasoning and just not tell him what
I know
is.
what I'm going to do. I know now what I'm going to do. I'm going to take your ashes to the gym, and where you have the chalk, we're just going to put you in there, and then we'll just...
You're going to help me hit PRs, bro.
You're going to still assist us when you're gone.
Because you thinking I'm lying. I literally put that in my will, so
taco
I'm about to
seasoning?
change it. No, pre-workout and protein shake.
Now you're spitting over here, bro.
Bro,
I'm so excited about it.
That is not actually in your will.
It's in crayon, so yeah, it might be.
My name, Alex. I like to. No, it really is. That's what I want. If people choose to do it, that's what they do. I don't want a big funeral. I want to be cremated, and I want my ashes to be used somehow. But dealing with fitness-wise.
You talk so much that it's so hard to distinguish sometimes.
I live a different life, man.
So what happens? Okay, like there are some scenarios in life where you tragedies happen and your body won't be recovered. What happens then?
Well,
for instance,
am I being abducted by aliens? I mean, what you mean my body ain't being recovered? I mean, even if it's mutilated or crushed up, you can still put me in the incinerator. And
well, I'm saying like there are sometimes tragedies that happen in life that the bodies aren't recovered. There could be military personnel that bodies are left overseas or behind. There are tragedies like
he missed his opportunity.
Yeah, nobody's kidnapping me, and I'm not losing my body.
Well,
overseas
I'm just saying, like buildings collapse.
Damn, Mike, that's a serious segue for today.
Man,
that was a good one.
I was trying to lead you.
Mike came in hot today. Wow.
I think my mic is. Oh, dude, my mic is on the side. I've been talking on the side of my mic. This sounds so much better over here.
So much louder on our part.
Isn't it?
So just to let you know.
Yeah, but then this thing isn't like what.
First timers. What are you doing? I want what Michael has.
Does that sound better?
Yes.
Wow.
I got tingles.
No, so today we watched a National Geographic documentary on 9/11. I don't know if any of you have watched that, but it is very, very well done. I think they put it out in 2021, and this year they started releasing some of the episodes for free where you don't have to watch it. And it worked on me. They hooked me in on one of the episodes, and then I bought the whole series, and me and my wife just binge watched it today.
What?
We watched it on YouTube. It was like $10 to buy the series or whatever. Oh. But I mean, it will put things into perspective because I obviously was too little to remember everything, surrounding all of that. But going back and watch, because I remember even my dad would make us sit down and like watch the memorial videos growing up, just so we would just kind of understand what the day was about. But I've never dove into it that deep until today, and just hearing personal stories. They had President Bush on there, and then a bunch of EMT, firefighters, police, military personnel who were there at Ground Zero dealing with that, people who survived from the 80th plus floor in both towers all the way down, and the people that they met and the people who rescued them, people who were recovered from rubble. And I mean, they pulled archived videos, I've never seen, did not know existed, from people who were filming in the towers and in the streets. And you see when each tower collapses, it is like watching an apocalyptic movie. Just not just the debris and whatever, but the smoke and the dust and the ash and everything just consuming the streets, where you're looking at a camera angle and they've got this cloud coming at them that they're running from, and then the screen just goes black because they are just engulfed and there's nothing they can do about it. They cannot run fast enough. And just watching that, it so puts into perspective the fact that so many people enlisted right then. Like, you watch that happen to your country, you listen to those speeches by President Bush, which are like some of the best speeches in American history, in my opinion. It makes sense why patriotism was at an all-time high.
When you mentioned President Bush, I think that one of the videos that they had released when he was reading to kids at elementary, when they go over there and you can hear the audio, and they say tower's been hit twice, America's under attack. Man, and he just sat there with this like cool, calm, collective, like, all right, can't show any fear, can't show any. But you can just imagine what he was going through, as you said. Obviously, I know that they have people that help prepare for it, but that just watching that it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's wild to think about what happened that day. I remember where I was at. I was in 5th grade. Sorry, Alex.
So you were 17?
No, I was not in 5th grade. I was in 6th grade.
6th grade, you were 19.
Yeah, I was in 6th grade because I moved here in 01. and I was in 5th grade, and that was that fall, September. That would have been in 6th grade. So I was in 6th grade. I was in English class, and I remember, like, there was just a weird commotion. It was just weird. And then they came over in the intercom and the PA system in the school, and they said, we have some terrible news. The World Trade Center was hit. A plane had flown into the World Trade Center. We want to pray for keep these folks in your prayers or whatever. And then it was like 10 minutes later, however long it was later, when the second plane hit, they came back on. And you can tell it was emotional. I don't remember if it was a principal or if assistant principal, but then they said, let's take a moment of silence to remember those individuals. And I don't think at the time it was like a terrorist attack. It was just, we want to remember that some tragedy happened. And so I just remember it just being silent, like in the classroom. We just all waited. But we didn't know what the World Trade Center was. We were asking questions. Right. What is it? What does that building do?
In 5th grade.
I mean, to this day, most people don't know what the World Trade Centers were. It wasn't explained until after. I mean, I knew of the building, but I didn't know what the buildings were and why they targeted it and whatnot.
Well, and the only thing I know how to compare it to, and it's so not the same, but as far as just like a nationwide, like, somewhat panic, worry, communities coming together, whatever, is when 2020 hit at first, before everything got drawn out and people got tired of it and whatever. When this virus first hit the world and none of us knew what the heck was going on, didn't know what to expect, everybody's saying stay home, and there was just kind of like this nationwide, and communities started banding together and like figuring it out. Churches started figuring out how to do Bible studies and services and anything they could over Zoom and other platforms, and it was just like across the entire nation for the first time. That's the first time in my life I've witnessed like, oh, this is like a serious event that is happening that affects everybody, and we're all in this together, right? All in this big mess. And that's the only thing I know how to. There wasn't a bunch of patriotism necessarily that came out of that, because it had nothing to do with our country being under attack. In fact, somewhat the opposite ended up happening. But I remember that feeling of just uncertainty of like, okay, what's going to happen next? Like, we didn't know, is it going to end up like the flu, or is it going to end up like this is a plague that's going to, half of us are going to be gone? Like, nobody knew. And so I remember that feeling that did go away pretty quickly, to be completely honest. But the first couple weeks when you just don't know what's going on, and then I look back and I watched that documentary and I'm like, man, to think, okay, are young people about to get drafted? Like, are there more attacks to come? Where is safe? People are pulling their kids out of school, taking them home. And I mean, just all this uncertainty that I'm somewhat glad that I didn't have to live through.
Yeah,
I didn't have to lead a family through.
How old would you have been at that time? You were born.
Take a guess. I was born, yes.
You want me to take a guess on people's ages? I couldn't even get my own age right. So I'm definitely... it wasn't that much. It wasn't
bad. You're 17 when you're a freshman? That's bad.
And I
Big
never
Al.
failed.
I was consuming baby food, probably in a high chair somewhere. I was 7 months old.
Oh, wow. So do you appreciate the fact that they've made shows and documentaries for you to be able to go back? So do you encourage your age to go back and actually understand why we're celebrating it? Because I personally feel like I don't think it's appreciated as much.
Well, let me ask you this: do you appreciate, or do you like World War II movies? Do you go and watch them? And
yes.
And I think those were done in a little different light. Sometimes it's Hollywood, or sometimes it's whatever. But there are so many movies out there. I watch them and I'm like, man, that's an awful, awful world event. And I think even the World Trade Center, that's a world event too, because it affected a lot of other things afterwards. Yeah. And
oh, totally.
Yeah. Well, and you think about one of the speeches I listened to today from President Bush was he was sending his condolences to several other countries who had their citizens in those buildings who were lost, and whatever. And that's one thing I never necessarily thought about. But then on top of that, when the War on Terror was launched, the U.S. was not the only country that was going to get involved in that. I mean, we had a lot of allies backing us up, and a lot, I should probably speak closer to my microphone. But yes, to answer your question, yes, I definitely think everybody needs to go and watch and be able to appreciate that 9/11 and the War on Terror is what made me want to join the military growing up, because the people I met that I looked up to that were in the military are guys who spent time in Iraq and in Afghanistan, seeing some of the horrid things that people are capable of and trying to put a stop to it, or being a part of the solution to some of those things. And has all of it been eradicated? No, evil will never leave the world completely, but you have to have a fighting force for good as long as evil exists. And as long as the earth exists, evil will exist. And so that's what inspired me as a kid, and I was swearing to myself as a child that I was going to join the Army. And so when I joined, that was a lifelong goal for me. Now, the War on Terror has slowed down, and who knows what the next thing will be or whatever, but looking back at a documentary like that, or talking to those guys who really lived a lot of those experiences, that's part of what drives me to want to be better at what I do, because I don't know. Right now it could be very easy to just get comfortable, but you legitimately don't know what's going to happen tomorrow at any point in time. I mean, that was a normal, bright and sunny day in 2001, and nobody thought that was coming. And so you just never know. And the greatest fighting force in the world, hopefully, is staying ready for that.
Yeah.
So.
2 quick points for me. One is the only time, I can honestly say, the only time that I've actually regretted my past decision not to join the Air Force like I was intending to after high school. I was pissed. I mean, when it happened, I'm not going to say my age because I probably messed it up, but I mean, I was a college graduate. I was working, a full-time job. I had a
college
career.
Graduate, so like 13.
Yeah, I mean, I graduated college when I was
32.
I graduated college. I think I was 11. No, I was a college graduate. I had my first.
You were 11 when you graduated college, and
That's
you
the
were
way it
17
happened.
when you were a freshman in high school.
I went back.
That makes sense.
You never saw Billy Madison? Anyways, so I had a career, and this it's totally typical Alex. I was driving to my job, and I had a TV in my car. I know it sounds pretty ghetto, but I was watching.
That is pretty ghetto.
Yeah, I know. I was watching everything on my car. And I remember I was so mad. I mean, I do. I get angry pretty easy. I mean, I'm working on it. But I remember regretting it. And I remember saying, you know what? I'm going back. Because I'm going to go up there. I'm going to find who did it. But they're like, no. That point of it is already past. So there's nothing you can do. And to this day, I wish that I would have been able to do more. At that point, we created at the job I was working at, I don't want to mention the company, but we created funds. We created for clothes and food because I felt so obligated that, like how you felt, that I wanted to do something. And second, I think they need to put that in the history books of Texas. We talk about, the wars. I think kids right now from, let's say, 12 to 18, 12 to 20, they need to know about what went to happen, the videos. They need to know. I think they need to know, because I think they take what we have right now for granted. We are still in the greatest country ever.
For
period.
Sure. For sure. Did you know that there's the 9/11 Memorial and Museum? It's not just for 9/11. There was another bombing that happened at the World Trade Center. Do you know when that was?
No, I don't.
A bombing happened on February 26, 1993. So when you go to the 9/11 Memorial, they honor the victims of 9/11 as well as February 26, 1993. There was a bombing at the building that I think killed 6 people, and so they commemorate those lives that were lost as well. And they remember.
I feel horrible. I was there last summer, and I didn't.
They have a segment on the wall that has those names on there.
So there is one name that I learned about today that we may be able to look up because it's not coming to me, but the guy, he was head of security at the World Trade Center when 9/11 happened. He also worked in security when the 93 bombing happened. And so John O'Neill, that's right. He said, our ground security is way too intact. So if there is another attack, it is going to come from the air. So we
Wow.
need, and he predicted all of this, and he said we need a system in place for getting people from the top to the bottom efficiently. And so he put in place quarterly fire drills, essentially, where everybody from the 80 whatever floor all the way down to the bottom had to take the staircase and walk all the way down until the drill was over and walk all the way back to their offices or take the elevators back up or whatever. But he conducted this every 3 months. And people who worked there hated it because they, obviously you're going to think this is way overkill. We would never need this training, whatever. But that day he saved a lot of lives because they had a system in place. And then there were...
Was he still there? Was he still working at the trade centers when the bombing happened?
He was there, and he was escorting people out and ended up dying when I think the South Tower collapsed.
No.
But they say that he led probably close to 2,000 people out of that building by the end of the day. And so it's just, he was prepared. And it's insane that he had that sort of foresight, and took his job that seriously. But,
dang. And hearing those stories, I mean, I was able to visit Ground Zero last summer, and it's such a sombering, just overwhelming feeling. Like, I mean, it's like people who have gone and understand and appreciate it. It's like you're floating, man. It's crazy. Like, to hear stories like this, I feel bad because I tried to read everything that was, all the commemorative they had on it, but there's so much. But just being down there, it's like everything gets silent, and you're like, man, you're standing up and you're right over there. You can just imagine. I mean, it was felt blocks on blocks on blocks of people seeing it. It's just, it's crazy. That's crazy. Man.
Well, and it's hard to imagine what it would be like across the nation at that time, because I obviously don't remember it. But aside from that, these people on the ground looking up, when I looked at those images and how apocalyptic it looked, I can't imagine what's going through the mother's mind. Who, there's these videos, pregnant women or a mother holding her child just running for her life or whatever. Because one of the things President Bush said in his September 20th speech is America is not unfamiliar with war. We've seen war, but we have not, with the exception of about an hour in 1940, whenever Pearl Harbor was, we have not seen it on American soil. We've seen war and we've seen devastation, but we've never seen it in the middle of a great city like New York. We've seen war, but we haven't seen thousands upon thousands of our civilians, women and children killed. And he said in one day, in just a few minutes, all of that was brought to our soil, and so I can only imagine the rage that he felt, that military personnel felt, that those firefighters and police officers and EMTs and everybody there watching that day felt.
And plus the Pentagon, correct?
The Pentagon.
So
in the
we
same
definitely
day.
can't leave those out for those that have survivors or were affected by that too. So.
And then you got Flight 93, which is just full of heroes.
They were heading into Boston.
I think they
They're
said
leaving out of Boston
or
heading into Boston. One of those.
I think they
It was
were
Pennsylvania. I thought they went down. No.
Yeah, they went down in Pennsylvania. I think they were coming from. I had San Francisco in my head, but
I had Boston. I don't know,
but they were heading that direction,
Right.
and they said the likely destination was probably the capital, from what I understand. But there's no way to know.
And the date you were looking for was December 7th, 1941 for the bombing at Pearl Harbor. But yeah, it went down in Pennsylvania, Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
Well, and what amazes me more than anything is that very ordinary people, it can go both ways, can be capable of horrible atrocities. These terrorist organizations, they're made up of normal working people that got desperate enough for money that they were willing to throw all their morals out the door and go, there are people in the Middle East who have gotten essentially bounty prizes for American heads, you know, normal farmers. And so normal people are capable of horrible things under enough pressure. But on the flip side of that, normal people are capable of very heroic things. And you look at a Flight 93 or whatever, and you look at ordinary men and women and everybody involved calling home, leaving one last voicemail saying, I'm not going to see you again. And with so much self-control and so much emotional grit, saying their last words to their family, knowing that either way this ends, I am going to die, so I will die saving people.
I think it's... I generally believe that everybody has evil in them. Everybody does. It's whether they choose to act on it. Because everybody gets angry. Everybody gets mad. Everybody gets upset. It's a natural feeling. It's how you react to it.
Where do you focus that anger? Where do you focus that? Yeah.
Do you get that anger? Do you get that frustration and you let it go? Or do you act on it? So, spiritually... You would think people like that, they had the, I would think, man, the devil overcame them and then, they took over. But I don't believe that also, because I generally feel that you still have that choice. You still have that line to cross, whether you're going to do it or you're not. And for that, it was unfortunate for it.
I like to read this. It says, Flight 93 did not arrive at the hijackers' intended target, the nation's capital, because of the selfless and courageous actions of the 40 passenger and crew members on board. When Flight 93 was hijacked, the passengers and crew members used airphones on the plane to contact the authorities and their loved ones. A total of 13 passengers made 37 phone calls. Through their phone calls or conversations, they learned of the first 2 attacks and subsequently took quick action. Pushed to the back of the plane by hijackers, the passengers and crew took a vote and decided to fight back and try and regain control of the airplane. As a result of phone calls made from onboard Flight 93 and from the cockpit voice recorder recovered at the crash site, we learned of the struggle the passengers and crew members had with their hijackers, which began in the skies over western Pennsylvania. And it ended with a high-speed crash of the airplane in a reclaimed strip mine near Shanksville, just 18 minutes fly time from Washington, D.C. Countless lives were spared thanks to their heroic actions, but all on board Flight 93 were lost. And I think about, there have been times in my life where like adrenaline will kick in certain automobile accidents, ATV accidents, or whatever, and you kind of have this instinct that kicks in. And I imagine there were men and women that their instinct to survive kicked in. And I mean, I just couldn't help but not put myself in their situation, but think about the moment that would be like to say, I got to call home and this is it. But these people are going to drive this plane or fly this plane into something else to hurt a bunch of other people. And I just think about, they took a vote and they said, we're going to do this. And they decided to take down the enemy.
Good for them.
And gave their life. They sacrificed they made that ultimate sacrifice, and they sacrificed themselves for other people. Thousands of people. And it's just, man.
And it's those little things that I think that I feel that I think it should be brought up more. Because, I mean, obviously we understand that even though we are trying to prevent from history repeating itself, we have to teach the generations that are going forward that these are instances where it can occur, and what are you going to do? Because, I mean, quite honestly, the way I feel about it, obviously I'm in a different generation than y'all, somewhat. I'm a little bit older, but I don't feel people were back then were on their phones like this. Like, oh, somebody's arguing, I'm not going to worry about it. Like, I generally feel that the way the world is going and with technology, if it were to happen now, you see all those videos that go with people are going crazy on airplanes and people are just recording. They don't want to do anything to stop it. Man, these people actually took a chance and were like, look, we're not being distracted by anything. We're going to stop this. But they don't do that no more. So that's what we have to continue to educate and understand and say, hey, look, we have to be aware of our surroundings. We have to understand, what's going on. I mean, I don't see.
Part of the importance of remembering and going back and learning about these things is it's very easy to, with 2020 vision, looking back, say, oh, that war was a mistake, or oh, we wasted our time in that effort, or whatever. But I was talking to a veteran recently who basically he said now, unanimously almost, if you just polled people, they would say, oh yeah, we wasted our time in Afghanistan, for instance. It's very easy to say that now, or we shouldn't have been there in the first place, or name the thing. But he said, I saw what Afghanistan was like when we showed up, and I saw what it was like when I left.
Yeah.
And it changed because they had terrorists running most of the country where women could not walk outside without a man or they could be put to death.
All right.
You could, if you were caught with a TV in your house, you could be put to death. Women could not get formal education. Women could, and whatever. Just the oppressive nature, people being publicly executed all the time for not subscribing to the particular religious practices that they were told to or whatever. And I'm not even saying that those things are the reason we showed up. The reason we showed up is because there were terrorists being harbored that we were going after and whatever. But in that process of fighting terrorism on foreign soil, we were keeping that at bay so that it didn't end up back on our soil. We were there for a reason. The world changed over there. And when we left, a lot of those things that had changed for the better reverted right back to how it was. And you watch that country just fall apart. And did we waste our time? It would be hard to argue that we accomplished nothing. But it definitely, from some Afghan veterans that I know, they feel almost betrayed that we turned a country back over or, whatever. They do feel like their time was wasted. But it's very easy to make all of those judgments in retrospect. And part of the reason for needing to learn about 9/11, learn about the war on terror and when it was launched, is you look back and you realize there were reasons for what we did. Maybe 20 years later, it could be argued that it doesn't make sense anymore, that all of those things are up for discussion. But these people did not go over and fight every day and spend years away from their family and die in vain. We were fighting a real evil in the world, And so that's just part of the perspective that I don't think my generation has, because we listen to the news and we listen to the 2023 perspective of everything. And going back and instead of listening to people talk about what it was like then, go back and actually listen to the speeches, actually watch the interviews that happened at that time and get in people's mindset. It was just different. We didn't know everything we know now,
Right. And that's the whole point of educating yourself, because as Michael mentioned earlier, if we watch old World War II videos or the bombing of Pearl Harbor, we have to watch those to understand, like, times are different, but it's informative. I mean, and I just, at this time, I don't think they show enough of that. I think that there should have been I think today should have been a holiday. I mean, it was the worst attack on American soil in so many years. I mean, it should be commemorative. Schools should be showing the kids. I mean, obviously there's a discretion on what you show them, but inform them. I think a 5-year-old kid, 6-year-old kid should know, hey, do you know what 9/11 is? Yes, it was the attack on America. I think that should be the basic information. I generally believe that.
And that's part of what fuels patriotism. I mean, you want
exactly.
your country to love your country and understand what it took to get the country to where it's at, or else it will crumble from the inside.
Exactly. So we're on this thing right now with our kids. We're showing them older movies that we watched when we were their age. For instance, Oliver and Company. Do you know that?
I forgot about that movie.
So we showed them that the other day, and in the opening dialogue of that movie, it's New York City, and you see the tall Twin Towers. And I stopped it. This was like Friday night. I stopped it. I said, Nevaeh, see those two buildings right there? They're very tall buildings. They call them the Twin Towers. And I told her about it. And I also knew Monday was coming, today was coming. And I said, see those buildings right there? And I explained to her what had happened. She just kept asking, why? Why did they do that?
Yeah.
But she's 5. And
But she's pretty smart. I mean, having.
but I got her to think, and then at the end of the movie, it's like the outro of the movie, and she's like, "Daddy, I still see the buildings," because I had just told her at the beginning of the movie that someone did something bad and all that. So she was thinking that happened during the movie or whatever, and she saw the buildings at the end of the movie. She's like, "They're still there, Daddy." I'm like, "Well, So
let me show you what's there now.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because she's gonna grow up and she's gonna watch these movies, and she didn't live and experience it like some of us did, and but they're gonna have their personal experiences.
Well, and we're talking about remembering some of these really hard things that happen, but here's the flip side of that. Is the other reason for remembering this is to recognize the resilience that runs in American blood, and we're here 22 years later, still standing. We had one
still
of the
here.
the worst terrorist attack, the worst attack on American soil 22 years ago, and just still looking back, look at how fast patriotism was fueled. Yep. Look at how fast people banded together. Have you seen the video of the first NFL game after?
Oh my God!
9/11?
Yes.
Oh my goodness,
chills.
man! It is. Yeah, seriously, and you just watch how fast people band together. Now, it's been a long time since we had someone foreign to be our enemy.
Yeah.
We fight amongst ourselves all the time,
but we
at
shouldn't
the end
have that happen for us to unite like that. But
right.
I get what
but
you're
at
saying.
the end of the day, we are a resilient nation, and like the Star Spangled Banner, I know that you can always have controversy around anything. And so some people don't like our national anthem, but you listen to that anthem, and I remember us talking about the bombs bursting in air and what all of that means, the historical context around it, and it is a song. It is a story of resilience. It is, the flag is still waving through the battle, through the night. All this horror has happened, but that flag still waves, right? And so I think that's why it just still resonates. It's just one of the most powerful songs in the world to me. That you listen to that and you just listen to the words and you think about it in the context of something like 9/11 and what's happened over the past 22 years, that the flag at the end of the day is still waving, and that's not changing.
So, real fast, one of the things that I observed when I went to visit last year was there was a church across the street that was not damaged at all during the whole attacks. It was like one of the only few buildings. So that was one that gave me chills. And two, there was a tree that had a American flag attached to it that was already there before the towers were attacked, and that was intact. Man, when you talking about when you read it and you look at the church, you look at a tree with a flag that's still standing. Yeah, that's
goosebumps.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, real fast, Mike. So you're a U of H person. So next time if anybody asks you about the Twin Towers, do you know Ralph Sampson, Hakeem Olajuwon? That's what it used to be called. You know they stopped saying Twin Towers because they thought that it was offensive. Ain't that crazy?
You know that there's a group of people who don't like people who eat animals, and they don't like the Astros or like the MLB calling it a bullpen. There are people that they're going to make a stink out of something that's not stinky.
Did you
That's
see
my point.
that particular organization having a fight with somebody on Twitter where they basically put out some article about how like fish have feelings and that we shouldn't, eat them?
Oh, fish do have feelings.
And then this guy like responds to their tweet and says, "Why can fish eat each other, but I can't eat fish?" And then it showed a screenshot. It said, "PETA blocked you." Or account unavailable or whatever, but he was blocked by the organization that I definitely didn't just name. It was awesome.
I was trying to name it too, but I was like, the Twin Towers, I don't know, that was something random, but anyways.
But I think, you talk about the flag still being there. That's what's beautiful about the Star Spangled Banner. That's what's beautiful about our country, that this, there's these civil moments where we fight amongst each other, but I think there's a true bond that runs deep through all Americans, that when it's time to kind of come together and to be a true American and set aside our differences for a second, it's moments like this that we can just pause and we're united in our effort to remember those that have fallen, those that have gone on before us, and then we can remember those people and their moments of glory. We can put aside our differences and stand arm in arm together and just remember. And that's what today is about, is remembering those folks. And there's memorials and all kinds of things. And I think about fallen soldiers and people who have committed and dedicated their life to protecting this country and then gave the ultimate sacrifice. You know, I appreciate people like that, and I appreciate those families who support people like that, you know, and this is a time where our country can just remember these folks, and I appreciate that. I wish we could do that more as a country and just be united together all the time.
But see, that's the thing. I think the country, this is my view on it real fast, is I think the country is basically set up like a family. We have so many internal fighting, but I genuinely believe if we were under attack, you get every socioeconomic, rich, poor, black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter, Chinese. If we're being attacked, we'll come together and we'll fight back. But I generally believe right now it's just the way it's perceived in the media and the politics is that we have to have a division. But if it comes down to it, I genuinely believe, and I stand strong and say that Americans will come together and we will fight back. We just have internal fighting. I fight with my brother. You fight with your siblings. But I think if it comes down to it, I think that we will come together. I hope.
I mean, we literally fought a civil war. It's not like there hasn't been internal conflict for the entire existence. But like you said, and I hate that it sometimes takes this, but next time there is actual real conflict, which unfortunately is just inevitable, probably.
Right.
I definitely can see that probably being the most patriotic, united that at least my generation is ever going to feel. Is once you have a common enemy instead of finding enemies amongst yourselves, all of a sudden that gets fueled. So.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm really passionate about this because it upsets me, because you'll see incidents where you'll see videos of people in a car wreck and all that, and you'll see all different types of people going over there and helping. They don't show that enough. They need to promote that more. But now it's always, you know, this against this, this against that. They'll show the division, but not enough is being promoted and shown of those times where people actually come together and they work together regardless of their background, their race, their age. It doesn't matter, and they work together. We have a lot of that here in America because we are the greatest country.
What is the name of the actor that plays Jim in The Office?
The guy. Well, he has the show.
John Krasinski. So John Krasinski during COVID started like a YouTube channel called like Good Day News or Good News America or something, where all he did is tell good news of the day. It was awesome. I don't know if he's still doing it because I haven't seen it in a while, but I think during a time like COVID, people were thirsty for that. They needed to hear some good news, and that's why it became big. But that's what I'm saying is sometimes it takes like a horrible thing happening to everybody at once for everybody to look together and go, let's do something positive. Watching that September 20th speech from President Bush, that's when he officially condemned Al-Qaeda, the Taliban for harboring them, made specific demands of them, and basically said you're going to regret it if you don't comply, which obviously they didn't, and everything else follows. But that speech, when President Bush walked into Congress, it was like he was walking into a boxing arena, and everybody there stood up. Everybody there clapped. Both sides of the aisle literally were fueled with patriotism, probably fueled with anger and therefore determination to fix whatever this was and find justice. And everybody together. I mean, I've never, ever in my life witnessed a State of the Union address or any other speech by the president that caused everybody, without exception, to stand up together, cheering behind one president who was in one political party, but everybody getting behind him. And
good.
I hate that it takes something like that, but it's inevitable. That's life, and bad things will happen, and more wars will come. But I think that America, at the end of the day, is going to be resilient regardless.
Oh, of course.
I think that runs deep. I mean, again, we have our differences, but when it's a call to action, we're still going to have differences, but we're going to set those differences aside for a moment. to be patriotic, to be American, and
about to
I'm
go
not
with
even.
I'm ready.
I'm about to be. I'm not American. I want to be an American, and I'm working on.
You would go and you would fight with us. You would fight. We would turn to the side, and we would see you there with us, right?
Yeah, I would.
Exactly. My point exactly.
Yeah.
Because you understood the opportunity you had when you came over here.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents did, and you're German. I mean, look at your past. Look at your history. That's amazing.
The only thing that makes me German is an identification card.
Exactly.
I've been raised here, and I want to be a part of what America is doing, and so. On
that note, I think we need to finish off and close out with a special rendition of our beloved Star Spangled Banner. I think that's the best way to end the show, man.
Man, this is coming from Alex, who like a month ago was like, "What's the name of our national anthem?"
What? I sing it all the time. Nobody ever wants.
He said that, and I go, "Oh, the Star Spangled Banger," by accident.
No,
because my friend has a song called the Star Spangled Banger.
No, to me that song, listening to it and playing sports and before a game, it'll yeah. If you don't feel it in your heart, then yeah, get out. Just kidding, everybody.
Man, who's this guy? He looks awesome.
A little bit short. He looks like he's like 5'5". I'm for sure taller than him.
Can we go?
Yes.
Here we go.
Oh yeah, the man right there.
Guy is good.
The guy looks way bigger on YouTube. You see his traps on when they had the man. Your traps were popping out of that shirt. I was
this
like,
video?
Did you have a stunt double? Was The Rock your stunt double? Is it weird that I look at those kind of things?
Yes, it's very weird, and your phone is playing it back right now.
And they can play it back all day long. Yeah, your traps are popping. I've never seen you do shrugs at the gym. Like, so what do you do? Like overhead presses? Like, fill me in.
What would that do for traps?
Exactly.
Yes, I do shrugs. Okay. I don't do them that much though, because it's.
Also,
no, I will say so. In all seriousness, big shout out to Kilovic, the producer on that. He's a Marine veteran. He works with me and a lot of other military guys that you guys may have heard of. The Marine rapper Topher, he goes by Topher Town Music. D-Cure, and there's so many more. But I mean, Kilovic is really good at what he does. I went to him with a very specific vision of genre and changed the time signature, and I mean, he did awesome on that. But that song, it's like we talked about on that other podcast. You can do a lot instrumentally to make it big, but as far as a vocalist goes, it is so important to just sing the anthem. Make it big, sing it loud and proud, but nothing infuriates me more than listening to somebody try to add their own ad-libs onto the national anthem. It speaks for itself. It's such a powerful song.
You can't forget Francis Scott Key.
Yes, big shout out to him on the lyrics. Now, who wrote the music?
John Smith.
Did you just make that up?
No, I looked it up.
No, I was about to say here.
His name is actually John Smith.
His name is John Stafford Smith.
Like the Pocahontas guy?
Wait,
He
no.
wrote-
He was.
I thought the same
He was the
thing.
lyrics, right? Because he wrote a poem.
He was like the music, and then
Francis Scott Key had the lyrics. I had it backwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always
But yeah,
remember,
John Smith is a very American name, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
But
America!
But remember, they used to teach us that Francis Scott Key, the one who made the lyrics, it's like they don't teach that right now no more. That's amazing. I'm glad you pulled that up.
Well,
Good.
and I actually, this is probably bad, but I did not know until I was working on my rendition that the guy who wrote the lyrics did not write the music. They
Yeah.
took a British, like folk song or whatever.
Let's see. This is not.
Bro,
the
you
right-
got to turn your volume off.
Hey, you know, I feel like when I'm yelling at my mom, Mom, your video is playing out loud. We're in the restaurant. That's why you're yelling at me right now. Man, I can't hear
Volume's
it.
on 100. No, but it was a British melody that Francis Scott Key wrote lyrics to and pulled it together for an
Yeah.
anthem. But yeah, beautiful song.
Was British?
The music was, yes.
Imagine. It's a lot of irony in that.
Honest. Yeah.
You know we have European roots, right?
I love America.
I love America too.
Me too, and I'm European.
God bless America. Man, that was awesome, man.
Alright.
Loved it.
So, if you go to 911memorial.org, all your gifts today are tripled if you donate to that cause. And so I wanted to mention that. If you go to 911memorial.org.
By the time you guys watch this,
Yeah, I know.
that won't be the case. But if you donate next 9/11, now tripled is awesome.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Oh, I will also mention I am working on fundraising with an organization called Building Homes for Heroes. If you go to that national anthem performance on YouTube, there's a fundraiser on that. But Building Homes for Heroes is awesome. They've given out 344 homes so far to injured veterans. And it started as a post 9/11 veteran organization because it was started by someone who was at Ground Zero on 9/11. Since then, they have now started gifting to Vietnam veterans and Korean War veterans and different guys. But anyway, they do really, really, really awesome stuff. And their goal is to finish and deliver 11 more homes by November 11th, which is Veterans Day. So if you are looking for charitable contributions, that is a great organization. I recommend. They're doing awesome things.
Good.